Okay, this drawing tutorial will show you how to draw the famous anime character Astro Boy. So we'll just start out with the basic shape for his head, which is just a circle. Osamu Tezuka's powerful little robot is still very popular among kids today. So I figured I'd just go ahead and try to draw him. So I'm just gonna get the basic proportions of his body down before we start adding the details. So I'm just going to draw a line from the bottom of the circle down and curve it a bit to the ground. This is where his foot will go. This is the line of action. Okay, so his body is pretty slender and it's not a ton bigger than his head. He has a pretty big head. So we'll just keep his body like this, an oval, and we'll connect bottom of his bottom here like a tube coming down to the ground. To the other side, we'll draw the other side of his leg, and now the inside of his leg is just another tube going down. We'll add his feet later. So we're going to draw his hands up here. He's going to be striking a power pose. So draw one hand up here, and then the other hand up here. It's a little circle. It's going to be flexing. So just draw these lines to help us. Add the meat. He's he's skinny, but he's also a little chubby in the sense that his arms are soft looking. They kind of got some puppy chub on them. So we'll just go to the other side of this arm, and his forearm kind of curves over his bicep. So this curves over the bicep, and his armpit goes outwards. It goes over his back. So this little part right here is his armpit, and we'll just loop it down to his elbow. Then his elbow will connect to his hand. Alright, so here's the basic proportion of his body. So now, why don't we go ahead and start tackling his face. So I'm just going to draw a line across his face to help us figure out where his eyes and other parts of his face will go. So we'll draw the vertical line looping down, kind of tilted at an angle. It's going to be looking to the side a little bit. So let's start drawing the first eye. And if you need to pause this video and catch up, feel free to do so. So the bottom of his eye is kind of like a line that goes over his cheek. And now we'll go to the other side of his face to draw his second eye. Alright, let's have him looking up here. Just a small circle, or an oval rather, and then a littler oval inside that one. Now we'll just go to the other eye and do the exact same thing. Little oval looking up, then an even smaller oval inside that one. I'm just shading this in. I'm going to use these pencil lines as a guideline for the drawing that I'll do digitally, where I add the black lines and then color him. Okay, so let's give him some eyelashes. And go to the other eye. Add eyelashes on the top of his eyes here. Alright. So now let's start adding the hair. His hair curves out, like we'll see the shape of his face here. Just imagine the curve, it keeps going up to a point and then spikes down like a triangle. And then using this curve of his forehead as a guideline, just imagine the same curve only a little bit out here, and we'll just curve it in sync with this first curve. And it just curves down and is going to tuck under his ear, which will go right here. And then just draw a little 6 inside his ear. And he has a second spike down here that will point out from the base of his head. Alright. So now, oh, I forgot to add his eyebrows. It's just like a frowny face for his eyebrows. Okay. And then in between his eyebrows, come up a ways, and we're going to draw a V for his hair. One line down, and then the other line going the other way. Curve this down here. And his sideburns stick out just a bit, and then come down and we'll connect it to his ear. Okay. So now, let's go over to the other side of the other cheek over here, and we're gonna have this cheek stick out just a ways from the base of his face. His cheek loops up just underneath the bottom of his ear here. So, I'm just going to darken up some of these lines to make it easier to see what I should trace for my final drawing. I'm just gonna go ahead and shade in his hair here. Ooh, before I do that, let's put some highlights on his hair because he is kind of like a robot. So we'll just draw some highlights here in the shape of a square. And robots they're made out of metal, so they have reflective surfaces. So he doesn't really have human hair. It's more like steel or whatever Astro Boy's made out of. I'm not really sure. I know Tezuka probably has a lot of notes and backstory behind everything Astro Boy is made out of. I actually haven't read much of the comics, but I know he made a lot of stuff, like over 700 comics, I believe, or manga, and several TV series. He directed dozens of movies, and he made a bunch of experimental short films. I believe he made his manga, I believe it totaled over 170,000 pages. So the guy was a workaholic. He died when he was 60. And his last words on his deathbed were, "Please just let me work." So he was a very passionate person and inspires me to try harder to make as much as I can, because he made so many cool things. Well, anyways, let's continue this. So his nose will just curve out like a C. Little C down here. It's a tiny little nose. And then one line on top of the C. Then come down a ways. Just draw a horizontal line for his mouth. And he looks awkward. We need to curve the mouth up a bit to make him smiling, because he is a good guy after all. Alright. I'll make that mouth a little better when I go over it. Okay, now just a couple lines going down for his neck. And his chest will come out just a bit. Then his belly will continue onward. Right about here, we'll add his belt. So we'll just curve that around, like so. Then his underwear curves out a bit and goes over his leg. And his little booty sticks out like so. And since the light is coming this way, we'll add a little rectangle here for the highlight, and another littler rectangle for the rest of the highlight. And I'll just go ahead and shade this in. Okay, and up for the belt, let's just add a few lines coming downwards. And on this side of the belt, we're going to have his back arching a little bit. Arching into this arm. Okay, so let's finish these legs. Okay, so right about here, we'll add a curve here for the top of his boot. And a curve underneath it. It's just like a tube wrapping around his leg. Then his leg will continue down. Kind of sticks out a little bit. Actually, I'm just going to come up here really quick and make his eyebrows a little bit more confident. Alright, so come back to the other leg. And continue just doing the same thing you did for the other leg. Just add these little boots here. And this, since his leg's going at an angle, it'll curve outwards just a bit, and it'll be viewed from the side. Actually, I see. I need to move this up a bit so you can actually see the feet. Alright. This is just going to be a shadow, so that he's not just standing in midair. This bottom foot needs to be a little bit fatter. The main thing about these pencil drawing is just to get the proportions. It doesn't have to be super pretty. But if you're drawing in pencil, I recommend starting out light. Don't draw too hard, because all the stuff I'm doing here, like, I can't erase this, but I'm gonna redraw it on the computer, so the lines will be sharper. It's like the first drawing doesn't have to be perfect. It's just about getting the proportions mainly. So come up to the shoulder, and then just gonna flesh these lines out for his arms. Now his hand, he only has 3 fingers. He's a cartoony dude, not super realistic. So this is the thumb. It's just like a 9, but don't connect it all the way. It's like it's a broken 9. So now we'll loop this around, and about right here is where his fingers will start. So we'll add 1 line here, then the second line to complete his middle finger, and then another line for his pinky that just loops into his middle finger there. Now we'll complete his other arm. It's just using these first lines we put down as guidelines, darkening them up, and let's draw this guideline for where his fingers will be going, and curve it in like little C's. He's a little bit too fat, so I'm gonna shrink him up in the stomach just a bit. And I don't know where my eraser is. I would erase this, but it's all good. Alright. Alright, I'm gonna do the speed drawing soon. If you have any suggestions for future videos, please let me know in the comments below, and I will most likely draw it. So, yeah, this is how to draw Astro Boy striking a pose. Alright, thanks for watching.